On the first daylight raid, a flight of 4 carrier-based A-18Cs from the aircraft carrier Saratoga were approaching their target, an airfield codenamed H-3 in western Iraq, when one of the Saratoga's E-2C Hawkeye radar aircraft spotted 2 bandits 15 miles ahead. They were loaded down with 2,000-pound bombs, but unlike previous Navy aircraft, Hornets were designed to go from the ground attack role to the dogfight role with just a flick of the switch.
Bandit, 230, 30 miles. New picture, Bandit, 190, 20 Manny.
Take that wing, Mongo, not spread. Start a wing. Get out of my way.
Bandit, 240, 14, hot. Hot on the aircraft, 235, 30 from Manny. 3 or 4 inch here, Bandit is east to 3.
Would it fare as well as the Air Force Strike Eagles that had downed 3 Mirage F-1s and 3 MiG-29s on the first night of the war?
Bandit, Manny, 185, 25, southbound.
Then, Lieutenant Commander Mark Fox got a lock on one of the 2 MiG-21s, and 2 of the other 4 pilots did as well. Both groups of aircraft were approaching each other at Mach 1.2 supersonic speeds.
200 radar contact on my nose, Mach at 28,000.
Aircraft in position 17035.
200 bogey on the nose, 28,000, 7 miles. Take 21. EID. Target lock. Trail section, stand by for BID. Coming down my nose, both side, Mach.
Fox's Hornet fired its Sidewinder heat-seeking missile first. Then, a Sparrow radar-guided missile. There was a fireball.
That's a MiG-21. That's a MiG-21. Yep, that's confirmed.
Then his wingman fired a second missile, and there was a second fireball. Throughout the engagement with the MiGs, the Navy aircraft kept their bombs. And following their 2 kills, Lieutenant Commander Fox and his wingman rejoined the other 2 Hornets and continued with their bombing attack. The whole battle had taken less than 40 seconds and is believed to have been the first time that an aircraft has scored an air-to-air kill while carrying bombs. As the 4 F-18s peeled away from the Iraqi airfield and headed south, they could see 2 columns of black smoke rising up from the desert where the MiGs had crashed, hitting the ground in the same relative formation as when they were shot down. These 2 kills were the Navy's only confirmed air-to-air kills of Iraqi fixed-wing aircraft. If ever confirmation was needed, this was it. The Hornet could fight its way to a target, brush aside the opposition, and then bomb with precision. They said it couldn't be done. Combine offense with defense. But the Hornet did it, and did the Navy proud. The F-18 Hornet had shown its sting. To have an outstanding flying machine like the Hornet helps, but pilot quality is the most important asset, one that can only be obtained by first-class air training. Having an aircraft with the ability to outfly any actual or projected fighter in the world is not enough. The winning pilot must be able to outfight them. To achieve such a task requires the best that both men and machines can deliver, constantly honed to razor-edge sharpness. And there's only one way to get that edge: flying realistic combat training. This combat mission is ground attack. Hornet pilots are to fly to a target area at very low altitude, using speed and terrain to avoid detection. They will find, identify, and attack the target using standoff tactics for their weapons, hit the target, and return to base. They will be intercepted by other fighter aircraft on their way to the target and will be expected to destroy the threat and then continue their mission. To make combat training as realistic as possible, the missions are flown against dissimilar aircraft, aircraft of other Air Force units, as well as carrier-based naval aircraft. In these scenarios, the enemy may be simulated, but the action for the Hornet pilot is real. In all air combat, the variable is always the pilot. How much maneuver potential he extracts from his aircraft will determine his success in this engagement. The trick is to keep his head out of the cockpit, to reduce his reaction time, to fly the aircraft instead of watching over it. His goal must be to spend less time with the machine and more time with the fight outside. Keeping track of his enemy is the key to staying alive. This kind of training builds self-confidence. In the air, it is this quality that convinces a Hornet pilot that he is better than the opposition. While self-confidence is not unique to fighter pilots, it's especially critical to them because in their hands alone is an unforgiving supersonic flying machine which operates near the very edge of man's ability to control. The fighter pilot is engaged in the deadliest game of all, survival. In this, he or she are either very good or they're very dead.
Echo 227, Bandits 240, 19 miles headed south 7,000. Second Bandits 225, 22 miles headed south at 4,500.
The first in a series of major upgrades for the Hornet was started in 1986. Even though the upgraded Hornets look no different than their predecessors, these enhanced aircraft are more capable. The upgraded models can employ two of the latest weapons available to the U.S. military: the infrared imaging Maverick air-to-ground missile and the new advanced medium-range air-to-air missile. With the Maverick, the pilot is able to sight his target with infrared imaging. This short-range missile then uses passive infrared seeking guidance to intercept surface targets. The Hornet can carry up to 4 of these smokeless solid-fuel missiles.
Copy that.
26 good.
Other Bandits are RTB.
The advanced medium-range air-to-air missile can go further, faster, and is more accurate than the AIM-7 Sparrow it replaced. The AIM-120 has a launch and leave capability. Launched from the Hornet with inertial guidance, the AMRAAM then pinpoints a target with its internal radar. Even in bad weather, multiple targets that are beyond the pilot's visual range can be attacked and destroyed simultaneously. In October 1989, the F-A-18's weapon system was fully integrated for air-to-ground missions at night at limited weather conditions. The night attack equipment includes an advanced scan head-up display, a multi-purpose color display digital map set, and crew station instrumentation compatible with night vision goggles. A thermal imaging navigation set projects real-life infrared images on the Hornet's updated head-up display, which overlay the images with appropriate symbology for navigation or identification. The Hornet night attack capabilities substantially enhance the aircraft's usefulness. Through the technological enhancements, night is turned into day for the Hornet pilot. This system was designed to allow the Hornet attack pilot to navigate and maneuver to and from the target area. This system provides the pilot with the capability to acquire, track, and attack ground targets under the weather day and night down on the deck, where he can take advantage of terrain masking. Now, the combat commander and his pilots have the flexibility to use similar weapons and tactics to those they use in the daytime. This system enables the pilot to deliver conventional weapons with direct attack. He can also deliver infrared Maverick or laser-guided bombs using proven standoff tactics. Following a successful run of more than 400 A and B models,
the U.S. Navy began taking fleet deliveries of improved F-A-18C single-seat and F-A-18D dual-seat models in September 1987. 2 years later, the C and D models came with improved night attack capabilities.
Magic Rambo 3 aircraft, flight level 160, heading west, what you were just talking about.
Rambo, we have possible contact. Contact Magic 264, decimal 4 for control.
2644, yeah. Rambo 2644, 2644, yeah.
227, your Bandits 170, 13, 3 up 3s. Bandits headed west, they're still at 17,000.
F-A-18Cs have synthetic aperture ground mapping radar with a Doppler beam sharpening mode to generate ground maps. This ground mapping capability that permits crews to locate and attack targets in adverse weather and poor visibility, or to precisely update the aircraft's location relative to targets during the approach, is a capability that improves bombing accuracy. New production F-A-18Cs received the APG radar upgrade starting in 1994, providing more precise and clear radar displays.
Bandits 1758, still headed west, 12,000.
The F-A-18C and D models ended production in the late 1990s, having been superseded by the F-A-18E and the F-A-18F Super Hornet. Current plans call for the F-18A and B aircraft to remain in service with the U.S. Navy until about 2015, while F-18C and D models will be retired by 2020. During this mission, the Hornet pilots exerted the same amount of energy as 12 hours of hard manual labor. They have flown the Hornet to the edge of the envelope to show you that for the pilots who now fly this aircraft and those who have to fly it in actual combat, this is an aircraft you can win with. And for a fighter pilot, winning is the bottom line.
The FA-18D is the two-seat version of the FA-18C. Unlike the FA-18B, the D model only has flying controls in the front seat and was intended as a two-seat night attack aircraft rather than as a two-seat trainer. Developed to become a Marine Corps workhorse, this one aircraft will replace 3 current aircraft in the attack, reconnaissance, and fast-forward air control roles. The flight officer seated in the aft cockpit is provided with 2 stationary hand controls, one on each side of the seat, to operate the weapon systems.
120 and 10.
The primary users of the Night Attack Hornet are Marine Corps units which are tasked with all-weather attack. This model of Hornet has also replaced another old Blue Angel aircraft, the A-4 Skyhawk, in the fast jet forward air control role. There's also a reconnaissance version of the FA-18D. By removing the M61 cannon, and replacing it with a pallet-mounted electro-optical suite. The Hornet's scanners and sensors can data link images directly to commanders on the ground. Even though the first night attack Hornets were delivered in early 1990, they still took part in Operation Desert Storm. Operating out of Bahrain, it was one of these aircraft that first spotted the massive retreat of the Iraqi army from Kuwait City. 3 Hornets, flying as fast-forward air controllers, then coordinated the destruction of the convoy by other coalition aircraft.
Altitude. Altitude.
Bandits on your 150 for 8 miles west.
QCI, your left 930 low. Visual.
Aircraft at 22530 from Manny. Bandit is hot on you.
The FA-18D is configured for the night attack role, with forward-looking infrared and instrumentation, and cockpit arrangements modified for use with night vision goggles, which will allow pilots to fly as low as 100 feet. Operating out of Aviano Air Base in Italy, Marine Corps Hornets continued to prove their mettle as all-round versatile performers during NATO bombing raids against Bosnian Serb positions in the fall of 1995. The Marine Hornets were the only NATO aircraft in theater with cockpits and night vision goggles integrated for night attack and became masters of the night.
The night attack Hornet was on the leading edge of the attack on terrorism in Afghanistan in 2001 and Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003.
Under the cover of darkness, Hornets flew right down on the deck, under the weather, out of sight of ground fire, dropping laser-guided bombs with pinpoint accuracy. They were even involved in the Marine Corps rescue of a downed F-16 pilot, Captain Scott O'Grady. 4 Hornets were directly involved in providing cover for the rescue, and 2 more were airborne, ready to help out as Captain O'Grady was brought out of danger. Look at them as they fly over the American West, a picture of precision that brings a feeling of pride and admiration to every American. That, in fact, is their mission: to enhance Navy recruiting and to represent the Navy to the public, government leaders, and America's friends and enemies around the world. It's a huge responsibility on just 16 officers and 110 enlisted personnel who make up the Blue Angel Squadron. That's especially true for number 1, the boss, who both leads the flight and is commanding officer of the squadron. But it's also true for numbers 2 through 7, who must all be carrier qualified with a minimum of 1,500 flight hours. Each officer volunteers for Blue Angel's duty. Their efforts are all directed at this, one of the 33 shows performed every year throughout. This is what's affectionately shows performed every year, who both leads the recruiting and to represent the nature of precision that brings. Look at them as they fly over the American West, a picture of precision that brings a feeling of pride and admiration to every American. That, in fact, is their mission: to enhance Navy recruiting and to represent the Navy to the public, government leaders, and America's friends and enemies around the world. It's a huge aircraft in normal flight and the other inverted.
Fuel nozzle, low pressure, thrust, and fuel temperature Seeing the temperature 28. It's good.
1-5 for takeoff.
Elwood 1-5, cleared for takeoff.
1-5.
Let's go. 1, 2 burners. Okay, that was the first loop. 2,000 on top, 200 knots is good. And we're gonna get about 115 on top, 3,600 feet, plenty of altitude. Out of burner, show center. And
Altitude.
still inverted, weight 2,000 and back down. What have we got? 3,000 feet is plenty. And setting up for the 360.
Altitude. Altitude.
Back for the slow speed pass. A few birds. Won't be a biggie. There's 20 alpha already. And we're getting down. The hook's coming down. Stinger is out. Yep. I'll wait until I'm a bit closer. I'm not moving at all. See what do we get on the ground. 115 on the ground. Wish I had more winds than that.
Would a pilot in combat ever do such a stunt? If you engage in dogfighting at high speeds, you have to make bigger turns. The slower your speed, the tighter your turn radius, and the more likely you are to get behind a faster opponent.
And there's the crowd, 300 feet. Let's keep those burner in. Clover leaf. 3,500 pounds of gas. Plenty of juice. All right. There's show center. And there's the clover leaf.
Altitude.
Up now.
Altitude.
$2,000 feet is looking good. 3,000 feet is plenty. Back down for the... And a few roll. Back up. 70 degrees is good enough. Inverted. Pause, 1, 2, 3. Give it 3,000 feet, and there we go. Now, slow roll with inverted pass.
Bingo. Bingo.
the F-18 Hornet is uniquely able to perform the maneuvers you're watching. The reason is not that the Hornet is fast, which it is, but that it's also capable of going slow, which it does. The F-18 has such a tremendous power-to-weight ratio, it's able to defy the usual rules of aerodynamics and rely on pure power alone.
For the crowd. Okay, vertical departure, and there's the crowd, 300 feet. Let's keep those burner in.
With 32,000 pounds of thrust, an F-18 can climb like a rocket, and that's what's being shown by this solo pilot.
And vertical roll through 7,000 feet.
The climb comes out to an inverted loop, and then a beautifully controlled series of 90-degree stop rolls.
Bingo. Bingo.
Here again is a solo vertical takeoff and climb with a corkscrew roll.
Alpha, clover leaf.
Here's the best photo opportunity, the underside and top side of an F-18. Surprisingly, some maneuvers that look hair-raising on the ground are a walk in the park for the pilots who have an entirely different perspective. Others that may look easy on the ground, such as the negative push-out on the inverted pass, are anything but easy to the men in the air.
Bingo. Bingo.
And that's the last pass for the West 15. And 15 for full stop.
Hollywood 15, cleared land on 33 with gear down.
15, sir, green.
Altitude.
Good as it is, the Navy and Secretary of Defense knew the F-18 Hornet could be better. The Hornet needed a greater range, a bigger payload, and the ability to return to a carrier deck with more of its weapons unused. That desire produced upgrade studies, which resulted in this configuration, the F-18E. If it didn't have the name on its flag, it would take a real expert to tell the difference between the F-18C and the F-18E. There is a difference, a big difference. The F-18E can carry 1/3 more internal fuel, which means it can fly 40% farther than the C model. Put that in a combat air patrol scenario at 200 nautical miles from home, and the E model can remain on station 80% longer. The addition of 2 new wing store stations means the F-18E can undertake more complex missions because its maximum external payload has been increased from 13,700 pounds to 17,700 pounds. It can also bring 3 times more external payload weight back to the ship because of the stronger wing structure. In terms of size, the F-18E is 34 inches longer than previous models, and its wings are 25% larger with 100 additional square feet of surface area. All these external changes have been accompanied by internal ones as well. The most important is a beefed-up engine. Powering the upgraded Hornet will be 2 General Electric F414 engines derived from the highly reliable F404 family in today's F-18s. The F414s will provide 44,000 pounds of combined thrust, enabling the E model to meet or exceed the C model's outstanding aerodynamic performance.
Two versions of the Super Hornet are currently in production, the single-seat E model and the 2-seat F model. Both are true multi-role aircraft, able to perform virtually every mission in the tactical spectrum, including air superiority, day and night strike with precision-guided weapons, fighter escort, close air support, suppression of enemy air defense, maritime strike, reconnaissance, forward air control, and tanker. Converting from one mission to another can be done as quickly and as simply as just flipping a switch. The Super Hornet suite of integrated and networked systems provides enhanced interoperability and support for ground forces, as well as the overall force commander. The Super Hornet became operational in June 2001 and deployed aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln in July 2002. In November 2002, the aircraft made its combat debut, striking air defense sites in southern Iraq. The aircraft was also deployed as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom in March 2003. In 2003, the U.S. Navy awarded Boeing a $1 billion contract for system design and development of the A-18G airborne electronic attack aircraft. The A-18G will provide the warfighter with abundant operational flexibility. It can carry up to 5 ALQ-99 jamming pods and will typically add 2 AIM-120 self-defense missiles and 2 AGM-88 high-speed anti-radiation missiles. While developing the EA-18G concept and configuration, the Boeing design team maintained as much of the inherent growth capacity in the FA-18F as possible. The EA-18G is due to begin replacing the EA-6B Prowler aircraft by the end of the decade. Upon initial fleet introduction, the EA-18G will be capable of self-protection, freeing up dedicated escort aircraft for strike and other missions. It will be capable of rapidly locating and destroying surface-to-air missiles.
Wire. Rewire. Future naval aviation arriving.
As part of the U.S. Navy's overall vision of sea power, the Super Hornet's greater firepower, endurance, and its multi-mission capabilities as an all-weather strike fighter are quickly proving that it is much more than just the new kid on the block.
Taken together, the F-18E provides greater range and endurance, carries a heavier payload, has more bring-back capability, and greater growth potential, and at the same time has equal or better performance than its predecessors.
In fact, the Super Hornets are scheduled to begin replacing the F-14 Tomcat as the fleet's defender in 2007. The Hornet represents a superb blending of technology, reliability, and maintainability. The result is an airplane with fantastic operational capabilities, limited only by the minds of the pilots who fly it. It is truly tomorrow's aircraft for tomorrow's mission.